Hi friends, this is Ursula. I'm back because there are so many people wanting to get information about the starseedsastrology.com free online calculator. So I'm creating this very mini video to bring anyone who's interested in taking the class or who may be brand new and entering the class. So here we go. If you find yourself as a very base beginner, I'm going to give you a free little introduction. Okay, here's my framework. You know, when you approach painting or drawing, a lot of times we have to start with broad brush strokes. We can't just move right in and start painting the eyeball and then the nose and then the mouth. No, we have to kind of like figure out the broad areas to work on. And so teacher Ursula brought my little apple, and I wanted to use that same metaphor when we're talking about how to read your Starseeds Galactic report. So let me share my screen. Many of you are already at the starseedsastrology.com calculator, and you place all your natal information at the top. Right, here we go. And then the birth location, and we hit calculate. We copy and paste into this area here. We hit import natal chart data. We wait a few seconds, and then our information is categorized. Now, if you're brand new, you may not know that there's two areas that you can create reports. One is this first basic report, and that's what I hit. I hit the basic report, and then I scroll down to see all the connections. Here's the sun and Pluto, etc., with all the planets. These starseed connections either have a conjunction or an opposition to their respective planets. Like Orion has an aspect, a soul alignment to my midheaven in Gemini. Why this is important is because these particular star nations, you may have incarnated, you have a very specific relationship with them, something deeper to consider and look at. Okay, so here we go. Now that I've gotten the broad brushstroke of some of my, strongest soul starseed connections, I then go to the extended report where I hit both of these, check these boxes, and then you hit the extended report. And bam, here we are. You get these beautiful color-coded star nations showing. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute. So if you're new to Julia Balaz's class, which you can find at starseedsteachable.com, and you're wondering, how do I get started? Everyone's talking at such an advanced level, or even intermediate level. And I'm in here, what did I do? I don't even know astrology. So let me show you the first bite of the apple, which is very simple. If you want to just find out what connections, broad brushstrokes that you have with star nations, which constellations, let's go back to that chart that I was sharing. Okay. Here's the homework assignment if you are just beginning and not sure how to, take that first step. Here's my recommendation, and we played this in class earlier, but there's more of us coming, so I'm creating this video to help those following. I would recommend first looking at each constellation. So this is the constellation Lepus. I'm going to write Lepus down. Okay, and I'm going to then scroll around and find out, do I have any other connections to Lepus? And the answer is no. I already know this chart. Next, I'm going to go to Orion and just look, see the color red for Orion? I'm going to write down Orion, and then I'm going to count how many Orion connections to that constellation do I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 connections to Orion. Okay, so mark that down. Let's continue. Auriga. Let's count the Auriga constellations. 1, 2, 3. There's 3. Do you see what I'm doing? Next, I'm going to go to Lyra, and then I'm going to count all my Lyra connections. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I can see from my eyeballs right now. Okay, that's 7. All right, I finished my sun line. Now I'm going to go to my moon line. Andromeda. Count all my Andromeda connections. And then I move to Canis Major. Notice there's a difference between Canis Major and Canis Minor, 2 separate constellations. Now let me stop, and I'm going to go back even further than that, because when I first started this class, I didn't understand, like, what's the difference between a constellation and those fixed stars? And so my friend Anne-Marie helped get my noggin straight, because I just never studied it. I looked up into the heavens, but I didn't know the languages. Okay, so here goes. We have constellations. In the constellation, there are fixed stars. Within those stars, like our sun, there are planets, okay? And within those planets, there are moons. You following me? So let's just say constellation, fixed star, planets. Now, what's holding the constellation are galaxies. So we have galaxies, constellations, fixed stars, planets, and moons. That's kind of the flow. Now for us, in our human earthbound incarnation right now, this is Ursula. I'm speaking from the Milky Way galaxy, okay? That's the galaxy. And let me think, which constellation are we in? I don't even know. Is it the Milky Way constellation? Oh, I gotta pause and figure that one out. But I know that the sun is our star and we have all these planets. So let me pause. I gotta pause here for a minute. Hi, I'm back. Okay, so I learned something. Remember I told you galaxy, constellation, fixed star, planets, and then moons? Well, guess what? Our star is called Sol, S-O-L, sun, solar system. So some people in mythology called the sun Helios, H-E-L-I-O-S, right? But there's really only one solar system in our galaxy, named solar system. So it's this idea that here's our sun, and we have these planets orbiting around the sun, okay? But our sun is named Sol, and we are in the solar system. But guess what? It's crazy. There are other star systems, okay? So they call them stellar systems, but not solar systems. So it's incorrect to say, oh, there's many solar systems across the universe. No, our sun's name is Sol, and we are orbiting in a solar system. Fascinating, right? So there's over 3,200 so far counted to date, other stellar systems that the astronomers, people are finding. I'm sure there's going to be way more, but I wanted to add that little bit of information as you start understanding, how to do a quantum soul guidance reading. When we move outside the Milky Way galaxy that holds our solar system amongst other systems, other stellar systems, it's just fascinating to get the language correct. Took me a while, right? I didn't know. I focused on other things in my life and didn't really need to know. So let me go back to the sharing of my screen. So this is a fascinating way of understanding the language and how we sit within the cosmos, within the universe. That being said, let me toggle back over to the report I was looking at with you. Remember, we're just looking at constellations that your soul has connected to. Don't worry about is A better than B, better than C. It's non-linear. You start reading charts and you find more and more that it's really a quantum experience. What I mean by that is there isn't an order if time is happening all at once, past lives, current life, and future. And that's a whole other topic to have fun discussing. But here again, I wanted to show you, are you counting the constellations that you're engaged with? Andromeda, Andromeda, count them out. Hyades, all right? And after you've done just the constellation, that first word in those soul connections, then Julia Balaz in her class, she has given us a file where we can print out a very old star constellation chart. This is where you start looking, or at least this is what I chose to do, at the constellations that are moving within our solar system, okay? So, you know, baby steps, we're taking baby steps. I like looking at that big paper chart. Went to a special printing place, said, can you please make this bigger? Because I'm visual and I like to see how things fit. So again, remember, we're working with broad brush strokes first. We're not working on details just yet. Just go find your constellations. And if you think about it metaphorically, you're going to get down to maybe 10 constellations or 15 constellations. But in that universe, now we're starting to put real names to your soul galactic heritage. All right? So begin there. Be easy with yourself. You're coming in and the water's warm. And if you remember back in school, you got to take time to have a lunch break and just go find your star constellations. Okay? Later, I can talk to you more about how you navigate with the fixed stars, because then that's the secondary step. But for today, just go count your constellations, see which organizations you're working with. And if you don't mind, go ahead and put them into the Facebook private group if you feel comfortable doing that. I know, again, there's so many new people joining us, but that's a great place to start. It's just looking at your family of constellations. All right, bye for now, and thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye. Hi, classmates. This is Ursula again. Okay, I'm here with my little snake because I want to show you something. I just talked about finding all the constellations in your report, and I want to show you this incredible little gizmo that I purchased thanks to my dear friend Anne Marie. Okay, so there is this what's called a box of stars. It's a practical guide to the night sky, and it's myths and legends, right? So this little box comes with this map. Actually, there's two maps. This one is of the Northern Hemisphere. So remember I said, go ahead and find your constellations. Well, here's the constellation Hydra. Here is Monoceros. Here is, let's see, Boots with Arcturus. So do you see what we're doing? We're starting to see where the constellations are. If you buy this little box of stars, which I got on Amazon, look at this. Here's Ursa Minor. So if you have Ursa Minor as one of the constellations that your soul is connected to, you can find out where it is. And here's Polaris, dead center, right, of the Northern Hemisphere. Now, for those of you, because we're a global group, who are working with the Southern Hemisphere, and many of us have connections to constellations in the South. Here's Virgo, the constellation Virgo. Here is Aquarius, Cetus, Lepus, the rabbit. Here's that. Here's where Orion sits. You see it relative to the Southern Hemisphere from an Earth perspective. okay? So again, southern and northern. And the other thing I wanted to share about this great little box of stars, this is where the fun begins. Okay, this is the first one that popped out. It comes with these, you know, my mom was a school teacher, so I just love these little cards. See the back with these, I don't know if you can see it, they have these little dots that you can poke out, and they represent the stars in the heavens. So ideally, you can take this card and search for these stars. Let's see. This is the constellation Cetus, C-E-T-U-S. Today, we like to think of it as the whale, but in the old days, it was like the sea monster, okay? And then it talks about the other aspects around Cetus. So there's, I don't know, things I don't even know, Fornax Chemica and Machina Electrica, the electric machine. There's some very interesting things here. Okay, I never knew this. I'm gonna maybe put it this way, but here is the constellation Draco, and it surrounds Ursa Minor. Okay, so this little box of stars, once you've identified, let me share this. Once you've identified your constellations, this little box of stars can then help be the next step. Well, where exactly in the heavens can I find, let's see, like Cygnus the Swan? There we go. Oh, it's right next to Lyra. Oh, let's see if there's Lyra. Here's Cygnus the Swan. And then there's all these other little creatures, right? They just basically help understand where the stars are in the heavens. And over time, you probably know some of the constellations were changed into other mythologies. Here we go. Look at this one, Taurus. Yep. So let's see. Some of the main stars, El Nath is in Taurus. Aldebaran, it's the eye of the bull. Anyway, my heart is going out to anyone who's starting the class, might be feeling a little overwhelmed. You can hear people speaking and it's like a whole different language. And in fact, it is. So give yourself a pat on the back. You've made it to the classroom, and there's some really easy tools if you decide to play the game the way you like to learn. I like lots of visuals. But since I have you, I'm going to now talk to you about the second step. After you do all your constellations, what do you do next? And I mentioned to you before, look at the fixed stars, because those are the star names that we associate oftentimes with ET or alien family, like Andromedans. Well, that's really with a constellation. Well, Lyrans, that's a constellation too. But when you start looking at within the constellation, what are the stars? Because with each fixed star, there is a story. Now, some of those old stories are rather nasty. It's like, oh, predisposed to drowning or beheading. So I think in 2022 now, there's time to revisit those kind of frightening stories, but look to see that Julia lists so many great books to start learning about the stories and the myths of the stars. I know eventually in our class, after we go through the signs, I think the next step will be talking about planets as far as our 5 foundational pillars. Then after the planets, my goodness, we're going to be opening up and having conversations about the stars. Might be constellations and then the stars. Sorry if I've lost or confused anybody, but I'm just going to restate. Begin with your constellations, your big family, okay? It's almost like, I'm from China, I'm from Germany, but then the stars are like the towns that have their own mythos, their own way of showing up. Like, I'm from America. Well, yeah, but look how different we are, East Coast, West Coast, right? Or in the middle of the state. Okay, that's all I got for now. Again, my heart is just really open to anyone who's starting new and wondering, how do I begin? So another shout out again to this box of stars. It's a great teaching help. And as you start doing readings and working with clients, you know, you might be able to show them, oh, look, here's Leo major. And did you know there was a Leo minor? I didn't know there was a Leo minor. I knew there was an Ursa major and Ursa minor. So it's part of our educational system is learning what's up in the heavens bit by bit. Go easy, have fun, and see you next time in class.